Welcome to Intentional Aging for April 2023. Today, we get to learn about adaptive gardening. Anna Plager is a member of Clallam County Master Gardeners. She has joined us previously as a participant, but today she's here as our featured speaker and is going to share some of her green thumb expertise. So welcome, Anna, and thank you for being here with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and I will share my screen. I am honored to be here, and I am very happy to support this program. I think this intentional aging is a terrific contribution to our community. Today's topic is accessible gardening, matching your garden with your abilities as we age. My name is Anna Plager, and I have been a Clallam County Master Gardener since 2019. I'm still on a steep learning curve for all the plant species and growing options in our verdant spot on the Olympic Peninsula, having been a gardener for the 40 previous years in Alaska, and the last 30 of which I've had some accessibility challenges. So I'm happy to share what I've learned with you. Gardening is therapeutic. It offers a multitude of health benefits. Gardening is an excellent form of low-impact exercise on our North Olympic Peninsula. Out in the fresh air, it contributes to our healthy bones and muscles through weight-bearing exercises. Gardening burns about the same number of calories as walking briskly, bicycling, or playing basketball. It reduces stress as we find what I call therapy through soil, bringing new life into being and witnessing our role in life's greater scheme. Gardening is a good source of fruits and vegetables that are rich in vitamins A and C, potassium, and antioxidants, and fiber, and are naturally low in cholesterol and fat. It's healthy fruits and vegetables, and it spurs our interest in good nutrition and increases the numbers of healthy foods we eat. It increases our exposure to sunshine, which counteracts seasonal depression and raises our low vitamin D levels that are associated with many health problems. Gardening provides what I call a form of meditation. It decreases stress and relaxes muscles and contributes to a general sense of well-being. And when it's done with a group or family, gardening fosters a sense of community and encourages interactions between diverse people and cultures. Gardening allows the gardener to share homegrown fruits and vegetables with family, friends, and neighbors to help spread the health benefits to others. You garden? I think many of you probably do. You may even have a lot more experience here than I do. The goal of today's talk is how to make gardening accessible for everyone. I have 6 tips to share with you today, and then we'll have time for a question and answer. I think the talk takes about 30 minutes. The goal of accessible gardening is to keep people as active as possible for as long as possible, thereby keeping them healthier and happier for longer. Accessible gardening is an approach to gardening that enables people with physical and mental challenges to garden. It is sometimes referred to as adaptive gardening or enabled gardening. Accessible gardening matches where and how you garden with your level of activity, what you can do and how you can do it. It takes physical barriers out of gardening and reshapes traditional gardening approaches to fit what you can do. We all know that change is the one constant in our lives. So let's build some resilience to the inevitable. We can find a way to maintain a healthy level of physical and psychological well-being while meeting new challenges. 6 tips for today's gardeners. Number 1. Oh, what's that? Oh, hang on. My cursor got moved around a little bit. Keep your garden small and your efforts focused. By keeping goals small and focused, success is more likely. Consider the size of the garden and the number and variety of plants and how much attention individual plants require. The number of options is mind-boggling. And so think carefully about where you're likely to be in 5 years. You don't want to always be playing catch-up, but my experience says to expect upgrades in your gardening mode every 10 years or so. Number 2, select a garden site with your specific needs in mind. After identifying a clear objective, the second order of business with accessible gardening is to make sure maneuvering about the garden is as effortless as possible. Number 3, design a planting plan for your capabilities. We'll look at 4 types of garden beds today with accessibility in mind: raised beds, elevated beds, vertical gardening, and container gardening. You can mix and match to find the combination that works best for you. Number 4, purchase and use well-designed tools. A veritable plethora of options now exist for our consumer market. Use your purchasing power wisely to meet your needs. Don't fall prey to the sales pitches. Do your homework. If you invest in good tools, be sure to treat them with respect. Good maintenance pays off. Choose supportive accessories. The same can be said for accessories as for tools. Use good judgment. Whether it's buying a super stable step stool with extending handle or looking for the lightest, less kink-prone hose, do your homework. Ask neighbors and friends what they have found that works well. I love my metal hose that I saw a fellow gardener using and asked where to find it. Number 6, garden without injuries. You can do it, but you must remain attentive and focused. Move deliberately with forethought. Plan your attack to save unnecessary efforts and avoid overextending yourself. So let's go back to the first item and elaborate a little bit. Careful plant selection can drastically reduce the maintenance needed by the garden and the ability of the gardener to successfully accomplish gardening tasks. Consider plants that require less care. The Master Gardener mantra says, right plant, right place. Plants vary considerably in their ability to tolerate different site conditions, and it is critical to select plants with growth requirements that match the existing conditions of the site. Ignoring this guidance may lead to the need for increased maintenance, a failure of plants to thrive, and maybe even plant death. Native plants, plants with low water requirements, and plants that live for more than a season, we call them perennials or self-seeding annuals, they decrease the amount of time you must spend tending the garden. Gives you more time to enjoy the garden. Select smaller varieties. Large plants are more challenging for gardeners with physical limitations. Accessing the top of the plant for pruning, as this gentleman is working on, harvesting, applying pesticides can be difficult and might require the use of ladders. Not such a good idea. Dwarf fruit trees, which are half the height of standard fruit trees, make pruning, fruit thinning, and harvesting easier and allow the gardener to mostly stay on the ground. but dwarf fruit trees can still reach 10 feet or more in height. So if you've planted a dwarf tree, it is your job to keep it dwarf through annual pruning. The travel surface from home to garden and within the garden is most often the key factor that limits our ability to garden. Paths should be smooth and free of obstacles that might cause the gardener to fall or impede their movement with a wheelchair or a walker. Paths should use smooth but solid materials to build paths and ramps, such as textured concrete or roughened wood. Grass is often acceptable, but gravel, wood chips, or cobbled stones are not always suitable for people with reduced mobility. I just want to mention that the Master Gardeners in Clallam County are presently designing a demonstration accessibility garden to add to their larger demonstration garden at 2711 Woodcock Road. It's open 24/7, so you can stop by anytime. But for the accessibility garden, we're still researching how other accessible gardens have been designed. And we've learned that the transitions between different surfaces are very challenging and difficult to maneuver, and even more challenging to construct properly, as you can see in this photo from the enabling garden up in Mount Vernon, where they've got 3 different surfaces, and their challenge is to keep those smoothly aligned. We decided here in Squim that even though we have volunteers willing to install some paving stones, we have chosen to do the more challenging work of raising enough money to pay professionals to install it, because the durability and stability that you need under the pavers requires excavation, compacting several inches of gravel, and then installing your stones. Of course, there's a lot of other options for base materials. You can use poured concrete that could even be tinted or textured, bricks, or specialty grid-style permeable pavers that allow grass to grow in the grid. My yard at home has well-compacted gravel paths, and those may need changing as my mobility becomes more challenging over the years. The second item in detail is placing the garden near the house. Obvious advantage there. In addition, if you're bringing supplies and plants, locate the garden close to the driveway. That will also be advantageous. Design your space to meet your gardening desires, your physical limitations, and your pocketbook. Gates and entryways should be easy to open and wide. Allow a 3 to 4 foot wide pathway to provide clearance for small carts, walkers, wheelchairs, wheelbarrows, and tools. Keep safety primary. Before designing and installing impediments such as gates or fences, carefully consider where, why, and how they will be accessible versus potential barriers. Because many gardeners with physical challenges tire easily, locating a comfortable bench or chair in a nearby shady spot, or providing a place to park a wheelchair for resting will be much appreciated. And don't forget about the many microclimates, the spaces created on your property by trees or buildings. Take advantage of windbreaks, shady spots, warm spots. Garden smarter by letting nature work for you. Because transporting water is very difficult, as is dragging heavy hoses, locate the garden as close as possible to a water source. Consider installing a drip system. We are all conscious of wanting to conserve water, and there are many simple ways to keep it less demanding of our time and energy. I love my hose reel pictured on the right. For easy maneuvering, the ground should have a slope of no greater than 8%. That's 1 foot rise over 12 feet distance. These numbers are detailed in the list of references I'll provide at the end of this talk, particularly in the Americans with Disabilities Act. Obviously, you'll want to fill in any potholes or uneven ground to avoid falls. It's surprising just how small a stone or a dip can affect our balance, especially when we're carrying something or our attention is elsewhere. Tool storage is also important. Plan for a nearby tool shed or storage building that will accommodate the gardener's regular tools and support equipment. I say regular, meaning you don't have to have a space nearby for everything. Number 3 of 6 is design a planting plan for your capabilities. Let's take a closer look at the 4 types of raised beds. The standard raised bed, we all know, is shown here in the photos. The elevated bed that allows you to work from a chair, the vertical or hanging garden, and the container garden. All of them work, but they all work differently for different people. These photos show my own garden bed that has been raised, again, 6 inches higher this year to make it easier for me to raise up from a seated position. I'm really looking forward to trying them. And it's not clear maybe on the photo in the middle, but that's a removable platform that I can change from one bed to another that allows me to have a 6-inch wide seat on top of the edge. That will be cool. Raised beds come in various styles. These may be made from a variety of materials. They can come from raw lumber like cedar or redwood. Those are the most rot resistant. Pine and spruce will work but don't last as long. Rock or brick, concrete blocks. You can see some of these designs at the Woodcock demonstration garden. Composite wood made from recycled plastic and wood fibers. The dimensions of a raised bed depend on the gardener's needs. Beds that are 6 to 12 inches high might be sufficient for gardeners with minor back problems. Beds 2.5 to 3 feet high might be necessary for those who need to garden from a sitting position. Raised beds should be less than 4 feet wide, or less than 2 feet if you can only reach from one side. Elevated beds or table planters are shallow beds with legs with open areas beneath to accommodate the gardener's legs when sitting on a chair or wheelchair. They allow the gardener to stand or sit during gardening. Elevated beds are usually built of lumber. Because the soil is very heavy, especially when wet, elevated beds are usually built with a depth of about 6 to 12 inches. The width needs to accommodate the reach of the gardener, usually no more than 2 feet from each side. The length of the elevated bed will be limited by the weight of the soil, especially when it's wet. The bottom of the bed should be about 30 inches from the ground, or about 1 inch or 2 more than the height of the gardener's needs when sitting down. Tables that are too high cause the arms to become quickly tired. The Master Gardeners are planning to display a couple of these elevated beds and when we develop our accessible garden at Woodcock Demonstration Garden. We hope in another year that we'll be able to invite you to come visit us and see our various on-site demonstrations for gardening accessibly. Vertical gardening is another way to raise the garden to a comfortable height. This involves growing plants on upright structures such as walls, trellises, and fences. Vertical gardening supports plants at an accessible working height. The plants are often at eye level, making it easier to prune, check for pests, and harvest fruit and vegetables. The gardener, however, might still need to get down to ground level to plant and to weed. Vertical gardening also uses, pardon me, go back. Gotta go back again. Vertical gardening also uses garden space efficiently and keeps produce cleaner, since vegetables are usually up off the ground. One can build special structures like the ones shown in this photo. The teepee in the middle photo is typical for green beans, or you could try a trellis with a pulley system to raise and lower the plant when harvesting. Existing fences and walls can lend themselves to vertical growing, or be experimental, like the structure on the right-hand photo. It turns a wooden pallet on end against a wall. I'm sure you've also seen those hanging strawberry growers, or even the upside down tomato plant holders. Use your imagination. The last type of beds that we'll talk about is container gardening. Containers can be placed within easy reach on a deck or patio and often can be tended from a sitting position. This is very convenient for a lot of gardeners. Just about any annual and many perennials can be grown in containers. Herbs and vegetables do very well, as you can see my herb pots in the upper right. Containers have many advantages, but a few drawbacks you should be aware of. Consider how to maintain a consistent moisture supply for the plants. Are the pots large enough for the plants? Are the pots going to demand daily or even twice daily watering in the heat of the summer? Perhaps you want to install a drip system, maybe even on a timer. Will you need to refresh the soil each year with amendments? And if so, how heavy are the pots that you need to move around? Maybe you want to acquire lighter weight pots rather than the ceramic ones. Our house came with a dozen or more large ceramic pots, and I've learned to fill them halfway with blue or pink foam insulation strips to keep them movable, just leaving enough space to have a good foot of soil under the plants. Adaptive tools and equipment can be a big help for the gardeners with physical challenges. Ergonomic designs align with natural body mechanics and compensate for the constant repetitive motions commonly found in gardening chores. I call that meditation, but you do have to watch out. Many catalogs now offer incredible tools. My experience says, after checking reviews and recommendations, buy a quality tool. One really good tool is better than 3 mediocre ones. Long-handled or telescoping tools allow gardeners to work from a sitting or non-bending position and extend their reach. Lightweight tools made from aluminum alloy, carbon fiber, or plastic are less fatiguing to use. Tools with special grips or cuffs that fit onto the forearm, as in this picture, can relieve hand, wrist, and arm strain and increase strength. When I became a master gardener, they gifted me with a hori-hori knife, shown on the left there. It quickly became my favorite weeding tool. If you don't have one, I recommend it. I have a couple favorite tool catalogs, but I imagine you have your own as well. Do some research, and I bet you'll be surprised at the ingenuity shown these days with tools and accessories to accommodate a wide range of considerations. Tools can be expensive. Research them before purchasing. Maybe even try them out at the store to make sure they feel comfortable and natural when using them. Ask friends, review customer ratings, and read the online blogs. Adapting garden tools yourself is the cheapest way to modify your tools. Almost anything can become an adapted tool. For better control of a rake or a broom to prevent it from rolling over if your grip is not strong, drill a hole in the end, like in the picture here in the middle. And if there is not already one there, and insert a piece of a dowel, then tape it on with duct tape or baseball tape or a bicycle handlebar tape wound around the handle of your tool to create a larger surface area to grip. I like the D-shaped shovel handles that allow you to have more torque power. It strengthens your digging options. The sharp scraping tool on the right has orange flagging tied around the handle. That is a tip I've learned to attach to dull colored tools so that when they disappear into the garden bed or the weed pile, they're not gone forever. Padded kneelers, like the one on the upper right, has raised handles and can help gardeners who have difficulty getting up from a kneeling position. Kneelers you can turn upside down and use them as a stool for tending raised beds or even resting. Keep frequently used tools close by in a tool belt or an apron or a container, a big tub, to limit your stooping and your trips back and forth to fetch different items. Use small tarps as a mobile work surface to collect weeds or soil when working around patio areas. Cleanup is a lot easier. They're lightweight and also easy to drag the load around to get rid of it. Repurpose your old tarps that may have gotten frayed or have lost grommets and frayed edges. Cut them into handy sizes like 8x10 or even 6x8. And then I like to sear the edge to keep it from fraying. I just use a light touch of a lighter around the edge. When I'm ready to garden, I equip myself to start out with by rolling out my tool cart, shown here on the left. That's where I place my regular items each day. The tool bag, the seeding pad, a dry tarp to cover wet ground, and that silly looking green seat that tips whichever way you lean. I collect those at the end of each day so that I'm ready to start my day and don't head off without something I might need. I keep a bottle of alcohol water spray handy to treat my clippers anytime I move from shrub to shrub to avoid spreading diseases. The rolling cart stays near the shed, but is my base camp to remind me what I might want or need for the day's duties. The large plastic tubs on the right are designated, that's my support team. And I can use them for weeds, for mixed topsoil, mulch, various amendments that the plants might need, depending on the activity of the day. You can see there's a wood stake in the tub in the upper right hand, and I write on that with a large marker to tell me what type of soil is in that tub. Don't be shy about finding ways to keep things easy for you from day to day. I have 5 of those cattle troughs that are shown in the middle photo in my greenhouse. The bottom section is filled with pink foam sheets, so my soil depth is about 16 inches for my tomatoes and cucumbers. I haven't planted yet this year, so what you see here are some pots of overwintered perennials that I'm ready to donate for the Master Gardener Spring Plant Sale on May 6th. The last of the 6 tips is talking about our body, our most important tool. We need to take care of it. Warm up, stretch before gardening. Break up your tasks. Don't try to do it all at once. Rest. After about 20 minutes of particular task, get up and walk around the garden. At a minimum, rest for at least 2 minutes and assume a position that uses different muscles than what you've been using. Be hypervigilant around hoses. I've learned that their purpose is twofold: to water the garden, shrubs, hanging baskets, pots, etc. And secondly, to trip you. I've personally experienced a foot fracture in one of my metatarsals from a hose attack. As Mark Twain reminds us, aging is an issue of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. In all activities, keep your back straight as possible, and bend at your knees, not at your waist. Lift properly, getting as close to your object as possible, bending at your knees and lifting with your legs. When needing to get down to the ground level, instead of squatting, which strains your knees, try working on all fours or kneeling on one knee with the other foot flat on the ground, as in the picture here. Or my favorite is sitting directly on the ground. Take care in getting up and down. If you want help getting off the ground, you might want to have something solid and stable at hand that can balance your weight while standing. I've actually used my garden tub in that manner, as long as it's full of weeds or something as a counterweight. Now that's a small victory I can celebrate every day. Let's not forget the most important part of gardening. Remember these 6 tips. Small is beautiful. Choose your site carefully. Use a thoughtful planting plan. Treat yourself to special tools. Go wild with accessories. Use caution. Move with care. Your garden should work for you, leaving you time to enjoy it. Before I close, let me share with you some of my favorite resources. This might be a little small for you to read, but I know that Karina will send the slideshow to you afterwards. So I'll just mention each of the items because they are meaningful to me. The first bullet is The Lifelong Gardener. It's a small book by Tony Gattoni, full of lists and tips from a California Master Gardener. It's recently published. I recommend going online and signing up for her free newsletter and checking out her online short videos. I've attended her Zoom presentation and found it very well done. So just Google Tony Gattoni and you'll get her website. Puget Sound Gardening Tip Sheets is a website for all gardeners. It comes from King County Master Gardeners across the pond, and it is a wealth of resources. The Enabling Garden is an actual place in Skagit Valley designed by Master Gardeners as part of their Discovery Garden. The Enabling Garden is more than 20 years old, but their website has some nice detailed garden bed designs, and I recommend visiting their garden just in general. Gardening for Life is an extensively detailed booklet that can be downloaded through the Master Gardener Extension publications by Googling the pubs at WSU and then entering the document title, as I say in my text on this slide. A similar but more current publication from 2015 comes out of a community garden group from Buffalo, New York. This guide has lots of great suggestions, updated information about the Americans with Disability Act and universal design in general. The last bullet on this page is Accessible Garden Design. It's a 1-hour video out of New York City that's quite watchable. It's from 2021, and they get down and dirty showing you how to build an accessible garden. I found it well worth watching. The first bullet on the second page here is Americans with Disability Act, and its more user-friendly ADA checklist is a PDF that you can print out with revised standards from 2010 that details the basics for all publicly funded facilities. The second bullet is 15 ideas for accessible garden design by Jill Morgan. It's just one of those websites that I stumbled on, and I thought it's in a magazine format that I thought was well executed. Third bullet is gardening for the physically challenged. And it's by Jeanette Sturgreen, one of our own Clallam County Master Gardeners. Now, she is the one who's responsible for much of my presentation today. She was not available to give the presentation, and she was kind enough to give me her presentation, her outline from 2015 when she started doing these, and gave me those 6 points that we covered today that have stood the test of time. Counter Height Garden Boxes is an informative blog with details about how to build those elevated boxes. Wood versus galvanized steel raised beds is basically a list of pros and cons between those two types of garden beds. I find helpful because if you aren't handy with a hammer and nail, those galvanized tubs are available at all our gardening supply places. The Garden Professors, the last bullet item here under resources, is just a general gardening website with lots of factual articles and information from master gardener experts we call the Garden Professors, such as Linda Chalker Scott, one of our favorites. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them today. If upon further reflection you'd like to contact me, feel free to use my email, akplager@gmail.com. The two websites shown here offer you a wealth of information. The WSU Extension Office that trains all of the master gardeners in Clallam County has an amazing website for the public that is interested in gardening. It lists our upcoming community events, bi-weekly lectures, monthly garden tours, and other special events. The Master Gardener Foundation, the second website there, funds all of our Master Gardener activities, well, almost all of our Master Gardener activities in Clallam County, primarily raising money through our two major fundraisers, the upcoming spring plant sale in May and the subsequent home garden tour in June. You may be very familiar with either of those, and I invite you to join us. That website, the Master Gardener Foundation website, has details about those events and others. I just want to thank you for your interest in this topic, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have. Oops, that's it. Thank you, and I will stop screen sharing unless you want me to go back for some reason and look at a slide.
Thank you, Anna. That was, I just want to get outside and dig now. But first I need to build my raised beds. Does anyone have any questions for Anna? I see a message in the chat from Cindy, who's been gardening for over 50 years and is a retired master gardener. Another experienced gardener out there. I love that seat you made for the edge of your raised beds. I love clever, simple things like that. That's just amazing. And I would really like to hear about the metal hose you mentioned. What is that all about?
Well, I didn't take a picture of it, but it is exactly what it says. It's a coiled metal strip that gives it a lot of flexibility because between the coils there's enough space. And it's a 1/2 inch hose rather than a 5/8 inch. So it has a little less volume, but I use it for all of my patio pots and watering like that. Most of my garden bed is on a timer with drip irrigation, but the big patio out back doesn't have drip irrigation like the front patio does. And so I like to get out there with my hose once a week. And it is kind of a meditation practice, but that metal hose is amazing. No kinks, never, ever a kink. And when you go to wind it up on the hose holder, it almost like jumps up there out of your hand. It just knows how to behave. So I maybe can look that up and send that to you, and you can add it in the notes when you send that out. We're not supposed to recommend product placements as a master gardener, but since you asked, yeah, I can send you that.
No kinks. Sounds amazing to me. I am constantly fighting. I buy the kink-free hoses and all they do is kink.
Absolutely.
Does a metal hose look like a dryer vent? You know, when you do laundry, the dryer vent that's metal and it's got like the reinforcing. Is it along the same lines, only smaller in diameter?
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Evelyn, you have a question?
Well, I recently, well, it was in February, I found, close encounter with the sidewalk thing, and I banged up my left knee. So kneeling on my left knee is not possible at this time. And I find it's very, very difficult to get down close enough to the garden, without bending something, or it's not going to be fun for a while. And I find I have to be very, very mindful about how I move, and usually I lead with my left knee when I'm getting down to kneel, but you can't do that right now. Tried knee pads. That I still can't put any realistic weight on the knee. And oh no.
I hope that there's a light at the end of the tunnel for you, that it will heal and get better. But I have learned not to use knees because, number one, I'm a bit overweight, and number two, I have two metal knees. And when you put weight on metal, your skin does not appreciate it. And so I spend a lot of time figuring out how to get up and down without ending up on my knees. I generally find that it works. I don't know if you saw in my trolley, the green pad. It's about a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch foam pad that gardeners use. And often that one picture of the woman kneeling had one under her knee. And I put that under one knee. And then in your case, kneel with your left knee, and then just go from kneeling to sitting and not put any weight on that right knee. And the same thing in reverse. When you go back up, just go back up onto something soft under your good knee, and then use your strength of your arms to help push you up without using your knee. But it's a challenge, and we have to kind of become acrobats in some ways. I do find that I have not broken down and bought one of those seats that are on mobile things that you can use for getting up and down. That might be something you want to consider, is not kneeling but using it as a seat. I don't know. That's why as we age, gardening presents new challenges.
Next month to see if that will help. But I did have an X-ray, and I do have osteoarthritis in that knee, and I suspect it's probably having it in the other knee too, as well as other wonderful places. So yeah. I think I did some weeding at the community garden maybe about an hour and a half last Friday, and everything was not happy because I was doing, bending at the waist more than more than I needed to. Yep, that's all. That's what it's going to take is practice and experimentation, careful experimentation.
You know, they've also got these amazing weeders that you can use seated or standing that go on each side of the weed, and then you step on a little pad behind it, and the gripper closes. And so, you know, they do have long handled things like that and ways that you can reach weeds, and long handled kind of forks that will, you know, disturb the soil and disturb the roots of the weeds. And sometimes you just have to leave the disturbed soil, even with the weeds there, because that's what you can reach comfortably. And if you've disturbed their roots, they're probably not going to keep growing. So don't worry that they're still laying there on the soil. You know, maybe you don't have the perfectly clean surface. Uh-oh, where'd everybody go?
We're still here. We see you and hear you.
Okay. Oh,
No,
okay.
bigger. I mean, it's I bought a dandelion digger someone here in this county made at the fair like years and years ago, and put a handle on it, and it is awesome. Stainless steel. It'll dig. It gets a good 6 to 8 inches into the ground, and that's very helpful. And yeah, but when you come to dandelions, you still have to take the stupid roots out, otherwise they will come back and back and back.
They are persistent.
Yes, they are.
Joyce, do you have a question for Anna?
I just wanted to mention, I have one of those seat things that Anna was mentioning. For me, it's too high to be able to weed on the ground. It's almost chair height, normal chair height. So you end up having to, lean way over, and it's really hard on the back. But I do use it inverted to help me get down and get up. But I also end up sitting on the ground because I can't put pressure on my knee either. So it's a good tool because it's very stable and it has the grips on both sides. So I do recommend it for that reason. And that's the only thing I use it for now. That was all.
Excellent tip. Lois, what would you like to ask Anna?
Well, it's not really a question, really. It's a comment. I was lucky enough my house has a lawn around it a little bit, and then it has an old concrete block wall, and then the lower areas where the garden was or is when I moved here. And my son, being a permaculture designer, came over and designed things, and he said, well, you can stand below and reach the top of the wall where there's grass. So why don't you just put cardboard over it and make that into a garden area? So I have about a 2.5 feet wide garden, the whole length of the little concrete block wall. And I can stand there and weed and everything. It's very handy. And the other thing he did was when we had a community garden plot, we had poles and strings going up and down, and we grew spaghetti squash. And we got so much spaghetti squash, we were giving it away to everybody. And it was great because I could pick them and everything without bending over even. So I like that growing on a trellis is really handy.
You sound like you've got a great setup there. Really wonderful that your son was able to point out the benefits of that. And, the other benefit too is you don't have to mow it. I think just mowing is something where we can get away from a little bit.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I don't know where to raise my hand, but I just wanted to mention to Lois, I like her backdrop with the, looks like a Rialto beach or something. I
Yeah,
like that.
I just grabbed it off of someplace on the internet, and then you can go down to your video, I think it is, and there's a place to choose backgrounds from your pictures or blur your background. It's kind of nice when you have a messy backdrop in your house.
That sounds like a great setup, Lois. You have me thinking about how I can repurpose a similar situation in my yard. It's a great idea.
I made the mistake of buying a house that has too many plants. You know, I thought it was a fabulous find because the woman who owned it had done such a terrific job landscaping, but I had no idea how much things grow in this area. Coming from Alaska, I've never seen this level of verdant growth. And so I have spent the last 4 years trying to beat back and prune everything so that it stays where it belongs. And what I'm learning is that my challenge is to reduce the number of plants that I have. And my goal is within the next 5 years to reduce by half the number of plants. So I'm trying to figure out which ones I really like, which ones offer me the most joy over different seasons, and how to get them a nice balance of heights in the yard, so, and colors and sizes and shapes, textures. And within 5 years, I hope to have half the number of plants to worry about as I do now.
I've noticed walking in areas where they're putting in houses and then the landscapers come in, they're always crowding plants in there so they'll look good for sale, but then you wonder they're just going to crowd each other out.
And it only takes 2 or 3 years before you start seeing that. Of course, if the landscapers don't plant closely like that, it looks kind of bare. So it's a catch-22.
Any other questions or thoughts you want to share?
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to kind of organize my thoughts and be able to share with you. I enjoyed it.
Thank you for being here, Anna. I know I got lots of great ideas, and I want to go check out your demonstration gardens. Are they open regular hours or just special
Well,
events?
officially dawn to dusk.
Okay.
When somebody is working in the garden, the front gate might be open and you can park right there by the garden. If somebody's not working in the garden, there's a parking area just to the west that has our sign on it, and it's always open. On Thursdays, if you go Thursday mornings from 9 or 10 to 12, there will be a group of us. That's when the volunteers all come and tend their plots. And so if you have questions or you want a little tour, there's always someone there on Thursday mornings. So keep that in mind. But you're welcome to come anytime. And when you go on those websites and find out when the talks and the tours are, they have actual formal presentations that aren't on Thursday mornings. They're on Saturdays or whatever. And there's a garden in Port Angeles, Master Gardener Garden. It's part of the 5th Street Garden, and the Master Gardeners there are there every Tuesday morning. So if you happen to be over that way at that time, they are really good there too, with just part of the garden.
Oh, wonderful.
Community Garden, I believe, has a Saturday, once a month, Saturday garden walk. I don't remember which Saturday of the month it is. I know they had their first one a week or so ago.
And who is that, Evelyn? Who are you talking about?
This is the Fifth Street Community Garden that you were referring to. There is, during the summertime, there is a walk in the garden, and the Master Gardeners show people what's going on in the garden, what to expect. Here, look at this bug kind of thing, and how to deal with things like that. And it's in the summertime, and it started this month, but I don't remember which, whether it's the first Saturday or the second Saturday. My brain is not talking to me on that. Let's see if I can find it in the email.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. I just need to click on the Clallam County Master Gardeners website. And I can, let's see, Woodcock, second Saturday.
Second Saturday.
10 to 11:30.
Yep, that's it.
Thank you, Anna. I was trying to do that and my screen started flashing off and on again. So thank you for coming to the rescue. Well, this has been great. Thank you, Anna. As well as in addition, I guess, to Anna's excellent resources, I have a little list here too. Some online resources, which I also included Tony Gattoni. So glad to know she is Master Gardener approved. But I have a few online resources here and a few titles that are available in the Knowles collection. You'll get all of these next week in your email of resources, along with links to take you directly to each item. So those will be coming to you next week. And then next month, our intentional aging event will take place here on Zoom at 11 a.m. as usual on Tuesday, May 16th. And we will be learning ways to protect against fraud and identity theft. Volunteers from the AARP Speakers Bureau will be here to share tips for spotting scams and safeguarding against identity theft and what to do if you have been affected by a scam. So that will be in May. And unless anyone else has a question or comment, that is a wrap for today. Thank you again, Anna, for being here. And thanks to all of you for joining us. And thank you to the Knowles Friends of the Library organizations across the county. Everyone be well, take care, and we'll see you next month.
Bye. Thank you, Karina.
Thank you, Anna. Bye-bye.
Bye, Karina. Bye, Anna.
Bye.
Thanks for the program. It was great, as always.
Thank you for being here.